There is a moment, in the last hour before sunrise, when Rome belongs to no one. The stones are still warm. The great city has been breathing all night, carts rattling through its narrow veins since dusk, mulehooves striking cobblestone in the dark, the creak of wooden axles carrying grain and amphorae of wine down from the hills. But now, in this last deep hour, even the carts have gone quiet. The drivers have unhitched their animals and found their corners of shadow. The fires in the bakeries have burned down to orange coals. Somewhere far below the Aventine Hill, the Tiber moves in its slow and ancient way, black and silver and utterly indifferent. You are here. You have arrived in Rome. Not the Rome of marble triumphs and gilded temples, not the Rome of emperors carried through crowds on ivory chairs, but the other Rome. The real one. The one built not of marble but of mud, brick and timber and ambition and exhaustion. The one that smells of wood smoke and bread and animals and olive oil going rancid in the heat. The one where 1 million people sleep tonight in rooms so small that a man lying down can touch both walls with his outstretched hands. When people imagine ancient Rome, they think of emperors and gladiators. But most Romans lived far quieter, harder, and more ordinary lives. And it is those lives we are going to follow tonight. Slowly. Without hurry. The way you would follow a river in the dark, trusting that it knows where it is going. Let your shoulders drop. Let the room around you recede. We are not going anywhere dramatic. We are simply going to be here, in this city, at this hour, and let it unfold around us the way it has for centuries. The street outside is called the Vicus Tuscus, the Etruscan Way. It is one of the oldest roads in the city, worn smooth by 10 generations of sandals and cart wheels, narrowed on both sides by the walls of 6-story apartment blocks that lean toward each other overhead like tired men sharing a secret. At this hour the street is nearly empty. A single oil lamp burns in a bracket near a doorway, its flame barely a tremble in the still air, casting a small circle of amber light onto the stones below. A cat sits at the edge of that circle, watching something invisible in the dark. This is not a silent city, even now. Cities of this size are never truly silent. From somewhere up the hill comes the low and rhythmic sound of a bakery at work, not the baking itself, which has been going since midnight, but the grinding. A donkey turns a millstone in slow, patient circles, and the sound of it travels through the dark air and down into the street and arrives at your ears as something between a hum and a sigh. It is not an unpleasant sound. It is the sound of the city feeding itself, preparing for the morning that is still an hour away. The air is cool. Rome in the early morning carries a particular quality of coolness that is hard to describe. It is not the cold of winter but something gentler, the coolness of stone that has been baking in Mediterranean sun all day and is finally, at last, releasing what it stored. There is dew on the broader stones near the fountain at the end of the street. The fountain is always running. It has been running for 60 years, fed by an aqueduct that brings water from hills 30 miles distant, and it will still be running long after everyone alive tonight is gone. Stand near it for a moment. Listen to the water. Let it be the only sound. Rome in the 1st century of the Common Era is a city of perhaps 1 million people. This is almost impossible to hold in the mind. There are cities in the world today that dwarf it many times over, and yet those cities have roads and trains and electric light and systems of organization that Rome could not have imagined. 1 million people in this space, these 7 hills, these narrow valleys, these streets so tight that 2 loaded carts cannot pass each other without negotiation, meant a density of life that was overwhelming by any measure. The noise during daylight hours was legendary. Roman writers complained about it constantly: the shouts of vendors, the hammering of metal workers, the lowing of cattle being driven to sacrifice, the endless construction, always construction, the city always half finished and half falling down at the same time. But not now. Now the city breathes slowly. Most of those million souls are above your head. The great apartment blocks, the insulae, the islands, the Romans called them, rise 5 and 6 and sometimes 7 stories into the Roman sky, their upper floors accessible only by steep wooden staircases that creak and shift with the settling of the building. The families who live on those upper floors carry everything up by hand: water in clay pots, food from the street stalls below, charcoal for their small braziers. What they cannot carry up, they do without. Most of them do without quite a lot. Right now they are sleeping. Above the cat and the oil lamp and the grinding millstone and the always running fountain, 10,000 people are lying in the dark in their small rooms. Some sleep on proper beds, wooden frames strung with rope, topped with a wool-stuffed mattress. Others sleep on the floor, on straw, on folded cloaks. Children are tucked against the warm sides of their mothers or curled at the feet of older siblings. A grandfather snores softly in the corner. A baby stirs, makes a small sound, and settles again. They are tired. Rome asks a great deal of its people. In the street below, one figure is moving. She walks quickly, a woolen palla wrapped close around her shoulders despite the mild air, a clay pot balanced without effort against her hip. She is a water carrier, or she serves in a household that has sent her out early, before the fountains grow crowded, to collect the day's water before the heat comes. She passes the cat without looking at it. She passes the oil lamp, and for a moment her face is illuminated, dark eyes, a wide forehead, a slightly tilted expression that might be concentration or tiredness or simply the blank calm of someone doing a familiar thing. She is gone around the corner before you can wonder more about her. This is how history mostly works. A face in passing. A detail without a name. Most of the people who built this city, who fed it and cleaned it and held it together with their daily labor, appear to us now only like that, a flicker of lamplight, a set of footsteps already fading down a narrow street. They left very little behind that was considered worth keeping. Their names were not carved in stone. Their voices were not recorded. What we know of them we know by inference, from the wear on their tools, from the bones found in modest graves outside the city walls, from the graffiti scratched into plaster walls, shopping lists, declarations of love, insults aimed at neighbors, prayers to minor gods for minor mercies. They were here, though. They were unmistakably, completely here. The sky above the Palatine Hill has not yet begun to lighten, but something has changed in the quality of the dark. It is the subtle shift that comes in the last half hour before dawn, when the night begins to lose confidence in itself, not brighter exactly, but thinner. The stars above the city are fewer now, not because they have moved but because the eyes have adjusted and can no longer hold them all. Somewhere beyond the great walls, a rooster crows. This is not metaphor or poetry. In a city of 1 million people, many thousands of whom keep chickens in their apartment rooms or in small courtyards, the morning often begins with this exact sound, echoing from hill to hill, picked up by one bird and then another until the whole city is ringed with it. It is not a gentle sound. It cuts through the dark cleanly, like something being decided. The cat by the lamp looks up. The millstone keeps turning. The fountain keeps running. And Rome begins, as it has always begun, to wake. We will follow this city through its whole long day. We will meet the baker who has been at work since midnight, shaping loaves in the dark. We will walk the streets at their most crowded, then slip away into the quiet of the public baths in the afternoon. We will sit in the noise of a street food counter and eat what ordinary Romans ate, simply, hungrily, gratefully. We will watch the light change over the Forum as evening comes. And at the end, we will find our way back here, to the dark, to the quiet, to the sound of water and the warm stone and the city breathing slow. There is no hurry. We have all night. The building you are standing in front of has no name. None of them do, really, not in any official sense. The Romans call them insulae, which means islands, and when you stand at the base of one and look up, you begin to understand why. They rise from the street like something self-contained, something that does not quite belong to the city around it and yet could not exist anywhere else. 6 stories of mud brick and timber and fired terracotta tile, each floor slightly narrower than the one below, the whole structure leaning almost imperceptibly toward the building across the narrow street as though the two of them have been holding each other up for so long they can no longer remember how to stand alone. This one was built perhaps 40 years ago. You can see where the repairs have been made, new brick pressed against old, lighter in color, not yet darkened by the smoke and weather that have stained the original walls to the color of old honey. On the second floor, someone has hung a length of cloth from the window to dry, and it moves in the first breath of morning air like a slow flag for a country that has no name. Below the window, scratched into the plaster at eye level, are the words, "Gaius was here." Gaius is always here. Someone has added, in a different hand, underneath, Gaius should leave. This is home. For perhaps 150 people, this building is the entire shape of their domestic lives. The ground floor is different from the rest. This is the only floor with proper ceilings, proper light, proper access to the street, and so this is where the money lives, relatively speaking. Down here you will find a wine merchant who rents his front room as a shop during the day and sleeps in the back with his wife and their 2 surviving children. Next to him is a woman who sells cooked food from a counter built into the exterior wall, a thermopolium, a place of warm things, and who begins her preparations so early that the smell of heated garum, that pungent fermented fish sauce that Romans use the way other cultures use salt, begins to filter through the building before the sky has fully decided to become morning. Next to her, a cobbler. Next to him, a fuller who takes in dirty cloth and returns it clean, using methods that would surprise you. The ground floor of an insula is a small economy unto itself, a neighborhood within a neighborhood, and the people who occupy it pay significantly more for the privilege of their proximity to the street, their higher ceilings, their walls that are thick enough to hold some warmth in winter and some cool in summer. Above them, everything changes. The staircase is narrow. This is not an architectural oversight. It is simply a reflection of what the building's owner considered worth spending money on, which was not staircases. The steps are stone at the base, worn smooth and slightly concave in the center by years of feet, and then wood as you rise, creaking softly underfoot, the handrail a rough and splintery thing that you hold not for reassurance but for balance. The walls on either side are close enough that your shoulders almost brush them. From above comes the smell of the building, charcoal smoke and old cooking oil and human bodies and, faintly, the sharp bite of the wooden buckets that serve, on the upper floors, as the only available toilet. There are no bathrooms in the insulae. Not on the upper floors. The public latrines are downstairs, around the corner, a short walk that in the middle of a cold winter night feels considerably longer. Some residents use chamber pots and empty them out the window in the morning, a practice that the city technically prohibits and practically cannot prevent. Walking beneath the upper floors of any Roman apartment block in the early morning hours requires a particular kind of alertness that the residents have long since stopped thinking about. The second floor. A door, half open. Inside, a single room perhaps 4 meters by 5, which serves as bedroom and kitchen and dining room and workshop and storage for a family of 4, a man named Marcus who works as a day laborer at the docks when the work is available and at the grain warehouses when it is not, his wife Faustina who takes in piecework spinning wool, their daughter of perhaps 7 years, and Faustina's elderly mother who sits near the small window all day and watches the street below with the patient intensity of someone who has decided that watching is now her primary occupation. They are all sleeping. Marcus lies on the bed, a wooden frame with a hemp rope lattice and a mattress stuffed with wool and dry grasses, on his back, one arm thrown out, his breathing deep and regular. Faustina is beside him, curled slightly, her dark hair loose around her face in sleep in a way it never is during the day. The daughter is at the foot of the bed, her small body occupying the narrow territory between her parents' feet and the wall, wrapped in a rough wool blanket that she has pulled entirely over her head. The grandmother is in the corner on a low sleeping mat, utterly still. In the center of the room sits the brazier, a small terracotta vessel on legs, filled with ash and the cooling remnants of last night's charcoal. It gave heat until perhaps the second hour of the night. Now it is cold. The room is not warm. This is the essential fact of life in the upper floors of a Roman apartment block. It is almost always either too hot or too cold, and the occupants have made a kind of permanent peace with this. In the summer, the heat that collects in these upper rooms is remarkable. The sun beats down on the terracotta roof all day, and the warmth radiates downward through the night, and the small windows that are the room's only ventilation let in not enough breeze to compensate. People sleep badly in summer, or they drag their sleeping mats to the roof and sleep under the open sky, which is its own particular pleasure, lying on the warm terracotta tiles with the stars above and the city murmuring below and the smell of the Tiber carried up on the night air. In winter, the braziers are the only source of warmth, and the charcoal to feed them costs money that is not always available. The city's poor burn whatever they can, wood scraps, dried dung, occasionally furniture that has become more useful as fuel than as furniture. The smoke from 10,000 such fires hangs over the city on still winter mornings in a low gray pall that the Romans have simply incorporated into their understanding of what winter looks like. Fire is the other constant fear. The insuli burn. They have always burned. The combination of timber framing, charcoal braziers, oil lamps burning through the night, and the proximity of one building to another means that fire moves through these neighborhoods with a speed and appetite that the city's fire-watching crews, the vigiles, the watchmen, struggle to contain. Every resident of every upper floor has a calculation running somewhere in the back of their mind at all times. How quickly could we get out? Where is the nearest staircase? How much of what we own can we carry? They do not speak of it directly, but they know. 3rd floor. The door here is closed, and from behind it comes the sound of a baby crying, not the full-throated urgent cry of real distress, but the thin, exhausted cycling cry of a baby that has been crying for some time and has not yet been quieted, and whose mother, if you could see her, is sitting on the edge of the bed in the dark, holding the child against her shoulder and swaying in the small repetitive motion that parents in every century and every country have discovered independently is the closest thing the human body has to a lullaby. Her husband is not there. He works nights somewhere in the city, night watchman, or night baker, or night carrier of loads that must arrive before the morning cart ben lifts. The room is his wife's territory from dusk to dawn, and she has arranged it with care. The small household shrine in one corner, a terracotta figurine of Vesta the hearth goddess flanked by 2 small oil lamps that have burned out, a bunch of dried herbs hanging from a hook near the window, a wooden box under the bed that holds the family's documents, their marriage record, the child's birth registration, a small amount of money in a leather purse. The baby quiets. The mother keeps swaying anyway, unwilling to trust the silence yet. Outside the window, the first birds are beginning, not the roosters, which are still a few minutes away, but the smaller birds, the sparrows and starlings that nest in the eaves of the building and have their own, more tentative relationship with the coming light. Up again. 4th floor. 5th. The stairs become less certain here, the wood older, the landing smaller. The rooms on these floors are let for almost nothing and occupied by people who have almost nothing. Single men sleeping 3 and 4 to a room, transient workers who arrived in Rome from the provinces and have not yet found their footing, the very old and the very young who have no one left to help them afford anything better. But even here there is order, or the attempt at it. Someone has placed a small pot of herbs on a windowsill, rosemary, perhaps, or thyme. It is too dark to be certain, and the plant is alive, carefully tended, its roots in a scrap of good soil that must have been carried up 5 flights of stairs by hand. In the room at the end of the corridor, 2 men sleep head to foot on a single narrow mat, their breathing synchronized by habit into the same slow rhythm, in and out, as though they have agreed in their sleep to conserve even the air between them. This is what it means to live in Rome. Not the Forum. Not the temples. This, a borrowed length of floor, a pot of herbs on a sill, 2 strangers breathing in the dark as though they trust each other, because they have no other choice. The building settles around all of them. The timber beams expand and contract with the last of the night's cooling, producing the low, occasional sounds that old buildings make, sounds that the residents have long since stopped hearing, absorbed into the background of their sleeping minds, along with the fountain and the millstone and the breathing of the city outside. There are perhaps 800 such buildings in Rome. Perhaps 1,000. The numbers are difficult to know with certainty. The city is too large, too dense, too constantly in motion to be counted cleanly. But the insulae are the true architecture of Roman life. They are where the city actually lives, where it actually sleeps, where it argues and grieves and celebrates in the thin-walled proximity that is the price of living in the greatest city in the world. Outside, the sky is beginning, barely, tentatively, to consider the color gray. Up on the 6th floor, at the very top of the building, a child has climbed to the window in her sleep and is sitting on the sill with her legs dangling, looking out over the rooftops of Rome at the first faint smudge of light appearing above the hills to the east. She is not fully awake. She will not remember this in the morning. But for a moment she sits there, small and still and entirely serious, watching the light come to the city the way it has always come, indifferent and faithful and exact. The city breathes below her. She watches. Morning does not arrive in Rome all at once. It comes in pieces, the way most things come to a city of this size, unevenly, in layers, felt first by some and not yet by others. The bakers have been awake since midnight. The vigiles, the night watchmen, have been awake since dusk. The water carriers and the earliest street vendors are already moving through the pre-dawn gray, arranging their lives before the rest of the city opens its eyes. But for the great majority of Romans, the day laborers, the craftsmen, the small shopkeepers, the slaves who cook and clean in private houses, the scribes and the teachers and the men who carry messages across the city for a few coins, morning begins now, in this uncertain light, when the body decides on its own that sleep is finished. There is no alarm. There has never been an alarm. The Romans keep time. After a fashion, there are sundials in the public squares, and a class of men whose job it is to call out the hours, but in the upper floors of the insulae, in the rooms where ordinary people sleep, time is a looser and more organic thing. You wake when the light changes, when the sounds of the street below shift from the sounds of night to the sounds of day, when the baby in the next room starts crying again, when the smell of bread from the bakery down the street becomes strong enough to enter your dreams and turn them toward hunger. Marcus wakes first. He always does. He lies still for a moment after his eyes open, as people do when they are not yet certain they are glad to be awake. The room is gray and dim, the single window admitting a pale and noncommittal light that tells him it is early but does not tell him much else. He can hear Faustina breathing beside him, still deep in sleep, and he lies there listening to that for a little while, the particular intimacy of hearing someone you love breathe in the morning, when they are completely unguarded and completely themselves. Then he sits up, carefully, the way a man sits up who does not want to wake his wife. The floor is cold against his feet. This is the first physical fact of every Roman morning, the cold floor, the immediate and unambiguous announcement that the day has begun and comfort is, for the foreseeable future, suspended. He sits on the edge of the bed and rubs his face with both hands. This gesture, this particular gesture of a person pulling themselves from sleep, is one that has not changed in any essential way across the centuries. The hands are the same. The face is the same. The reluctance is the same. He does not wash his face. There is no running water in this room. The nearest water is the fountain at the end of the street, and he will go there later, or he will not go at all. Most Romans of the lower classes maintain a standard of personal cleanliness that is more pragmatic than ceremonial. The public baths, which he visits when he can afford the entry fee and when the afternoon permits it, are where real washing happens. For now, he is simply becoming upright and conscious, which is enough. Dressing is not a complicated process for a man of Marcus's station. The Romans do not wear underwear in the modern sense. There is the loincloth, the subligaculum, a length of linen wrapped and tucked in a way that each man learns in childhood and performs without thinking ever after. Over this goes the tunic, the basic garment of Roman life, a simple T-shaped length of undyed or off-white wool that falls to the knee and is belted at the waist with a strip of leather. That is, essentially, it. The toga, that draped and elaborate garment that has come to represent Rome in the modern imagination, is a formal article, worn by citizens on official occasions, expensive to maintain, cumbersome to manage, and deeply impractical for any kind of physical work. Most Romans spend most of their days in their tunics and consider the toga something between a nuisance and a costume. Marcus's tunic is worn thin at the elbows. It has been mended at the hem twice, and the mending shows. He pulls it over his head in the gray morning light and belts it without looking down, his hands knowing the routine so completely that his eyes are free to go somewhere else, to the window, where the light is strengthening by degrees, where the sound of the street below is beginning to shift. His sandals are by the door. He puts them on, leather straps threaded through a thick sole, wound around the ankle and tied in a knot that has its own particular style, a knot he learned from his father, who learned it from his. The sandals are the most expensive thing Marcus owns, and he treats them accordingly. Last night before sleeping he checked the straps and found one beginning to fray and spent a few minutes in the lamplight working a thin strip of leather into the worn place, the needle moving slowly through the tough hide, his face close to the work. Now he stands in the doorway for a moment, looking back into the room, Faustina, still sleeping. His daughter, still sleeping, one arm flung out across the empty space where he was lying, as though in her sleep she has already moved to fill the warmth he left behind. His mother-in-law, awake but motionless in her corner, watching him with eyes that catch the morning light and give nothing away. He nods to her. She nods back. This is their entire exchange. Then he goes down the stairs, and the building takes him. Breakfast, for most Romans, is not a meal in any elaborate sense. The word they use, ientaculum, refers to the first eating of the day, and it is a modest and functional thing, a piece of bread, often yesterday's bread, hard and dense and requiring a moment's soaking in something liquid to make it yielding, olive oil, or a little vinegar, or occasionally a splash of wine thinned with water. Sometimes olives. Sometimes a piece of hard cheese. Sometimes nothing more than a handful of dried figs eaten standing up, already walking toward wherever the day requires you to be. The wealthy Romans, whose lives are documented in the letters and memoirs and poems that have survived, eat differently. They have kitchens and slaves to work them. They eat reclining on couches in the Roman fashion. They have access to eggs and honey and fresh bread baked in private ovens. But the wealthy are a small fraction of this city. For the great middle and lower strata of Roman life, breakfast is largely a transaction with yesterday's bread and whatever the street has to offer. There is a stall near the base of the insula, not the thermopolium, which will not be open for another hour, but a simpler thing, a man with a basket and a small brazier, selling rounds of flatbread and small cups of something hot that smells of herbs and grain and possibly wine. He has been standing in this same spot every morning for 11 years. He knows most of his customers by their faces, if not always their names, and he hands Marcus a bread round and receives a small coin with the practiced efficiency of two people who have performed this exchange so many times that it no longer requires any speech at all. Marcus eats standing up, leaning against the wall of the building, watching the street come alive around him. This is worth pausing for. This moment, a man, a piece of bread, a wall, a street filling slowly with morning, is one of the most repeated moments in the history of human civilization, and yet it almost never appears in the histories. The historians wrote about generals and legislation, about floods and fires and the movements of armies. They did not write about a man leaning against a wall with a piece of bread, watching the world begin. But this happened. This happened every morning, in this city, for hundreds of years. A million small versions of this exact moment, layered one on top of the other across the centuries, each one unremarkable, each one complete. The bread is dense and slightly sour, and Marcus chews it slowly, the way a person chews when they are not in a hurry and have not yet decided what kind of day this is going to be. The street around him is waking in its own way, a shutter opening on the second floor of the building across the way, a woman leaning out to assess the weather, disappearing again. Two men passing quickly, speaking in a language Marcus does not recognize. There are dozens of languages spoken in Rome on any given morning, the city absorbing people from every province and every client kingdom and every corner of the known world, all of them converging here, in this improbable place, in this improbable city that somehow holds them all. A dog approaches Marcus with the cautious optimism of a dog that has learned not to expect too much. He breaks off a corner of the bread and tosses it. The dog takes it and retreats. The sky above the narrow gap between the buildings is the color of milk now, brightening slowly towards something that has not quite decided whether it will be blue or gray. Inside the insula, the waking continues floor by floor. Faustina's mother has risen from her mat and is moving quietly around the room, adjusting things, the position of the oil lamp, the hang of a cloth over the shelf where their few dishes are kept, the angle of the little Vesta figurine on the household shrine, which must face the door, always the door, to watch over the comings and goings of the family. She murmurs something as she straightens the figurine, not quite a prayer, not quite a greeting, something between the two, the kind of thing you say to a presence you have been addressing every morning for 40 years and have long since stopped feeling self-conscious about. Faustina has woken now and is nursing the neighbor's child, a small arrangement, a small economy, the way so many things work in these buildings where everyone's lives are braided together by proximity and necessity. The neighbor's wife is ill, or working, or both, and Faustina has milk enough, and the few coins it brings in across a week are worth more than they appear. She sits by the window in the growing light, the child calm against her, her own expression somewhere far away, not unhappy, not happy, simply present in the particular way of someone doing a thing that takes the body but releases the mind. On the floor below, a door opens and a man emerges carrying a chamber pot with great care, moving down the stairs with the deliberate concentration of someone who has spilled this before and is determined not to again. On the floor above, the baby from last night has stopped crying and is sleeping the deep and boneless sleep of the newly fed, its face slack with satisfaction, its small hands curled loosely beside its head like two flowers that have not yet opened. Marcus finishes his bread and pushes off from the wall. He wipes his hands on his tunic. He looks up the street toward the direction of the docks, calculating the distance, the time, whether the foreman will be there early or late today, whether the shipment of grain from Ostia has arrived or whether he will stand in the morning crowd of men waiting for work and go home having earned nothing. He starts walking. Behind him the insula rises into the morning sky, its windows beginning to show small lights, the smell of charcoal smoke starting to thread down from the upper floors where braziers are being relit, the sounds of the building shifting from the sounds of sleep to the sounds of waking, a child's voice, the scrape of a pot against stone, someone on the 5th floor singing something low and tuneless and entirely to themselves. The city is awake. The day has, in its ordinary and unhurried way, begun. And somewhere, in a bakery 2 streets over that has been burning since midnight, the first loaves of the morning are ready, their crusts just beginning to brown, the smell of them moving through the Roman air like something generous, like something that does not know it is beautiful. The street receives Marcus the way it receives everyone, without ceremony, without acknowledgement, folding him into its current as though he had never been absent. By the time he reaches the end of the Vicus Tuscus and turns toward the river, the morning has made its decision. The sky above the rooftops is a pale and dusty blue, the kind of blue that belongs specifically to Mediterranean mornings before the heat has fully committed, when the light is still soft and comes from everywhere at once rather than from any particular direction. The shadows are long and lean across the cobblestones at a low angle, and where the sun has reached the upper walls of the buildings it has turned them the color of warm terracotta, the color of the city itself, that particular reddish ochre that is Rome's truest shade, the shade it wears when you have stripped away everything else. He is not alone on the street. He has not been alone on the street since he left the insula. This is the thing that visitors to Rome always remark upon, and that residents have entirely stopped noticing. There is never, after the first light of dawn, any such thing as an empty Roman street. The city is too dense, too hungry, too constantly in motion. Every road, every alley, every space between buildings wide enough to admit a human body has been claimed by someone doing something with purpose or urgency or at least the appearance of it. Walk with him a little way. There is no hurry. The street will show you everything. The first thing you notice is the smell. This requires some honesty, because the smell of a Roman street in the morning is not a simple thing, and it is not entirely pleasant, and to describe it only in terms of bread and spice would be a kind of flattery that the city does not need and would not recognize. There is animal dung on the stones, horses, mules, dogs, the occasional stray pig that has wandered in from somewhere outside the city walls and has not yet been caught. There is the sharp mineral smell of fresh urine from the fulleries, those cloth-cleaning workshops that collect the night's leavings from the large clay pots set outside their doors for exactly this purpose, a practice that Romans consider so ordinary that they have no self-consciousness about it whatsoever, and that the Emperor Vespasian famously taxed, reasoning that if people were going to make money from urine, the state should take its portion. There is wood smoke from 100 morning fires. There is the smell of the Tiber, which in summer carries a heaviness that rises from the riverbanks and settles over the lower parts of the city like a second weather. There is the smell of food being prepared and food being sold and food that has been dropped and left, olive oil soaking into the spaces between cobblestones, the ghost of last night's garum still hanging in the air outside the thermopolium that has not yet opened for the day. And underneath all of it, threaded through everything, is something harder to name, the collective smell of 1,000,000 human lives being lived in close proximity. It is not foul, exactly. It is dense. It is the smell of a city that has not yet invented the idea of keeping its biological processes at a hygienic distance from its daily life. You would not choose it. But after a few minutes you stop noticing it, the way the Romans stopped noticing it long ago, the way the brain sets aside what is constant and saves its attention for what changes. What changes, this morning, is everything. A cart horse has pulled up lame at the intersection ahead, and its driver, a broad man in a patched tunic, with the particular expression of someone whose day has gone wrong before it properly began, is crouched beside the animal's front leg, running his hand down the fetlock with a combination of professional assessment and helpless sympathy. A small crowd has gathered, not because anyone can help, but because this is Rome, and gathering is what Romans do when something interrupts the normal flow. 3 men are offering opinions. 1 woman is offering nothing but a look of profound pity directed at the horse. 2 children who should probably be somewhere else are standing on the near wheel of the cart to get a better view of the situation. Marcus moves around the edges of the crowd without slowing. He has seen this before. Everyone has seen this before. On the other side of the obstruction, the street opens briefly, a small piazza, barely wider than the streets that feed into it, where 3 vendors have set up for the morning. One sells vegetables from a low wooden table, leeks and onions and dried beans and small wizened turnips, and, in a clay bowl with a damp cloth over it, something leafy and green that has come from the gardens outside the city walls this morning. Her voice, calling out her prices, is a clear and practiced instrument, neither shouting nor conversational but pitched exactly to carry through the ambient noise of the street without competing with it. She has been doing this for 20 years, and her voice has learned the street the way a musician learns an instrument. The second vendor sells lamp oil from large clay vessels, decanting it into customers' own containers with a small ceramic funnel. The oil catches the morning light as it pours, golden, slow, with a particular weight and clarity that is almost beautiful to watch. Oil is a fundamental currency of Roman life. It goes into food, into lamps, into the skin after bathing, into the hair. The vendor moves without wasted motion, a man who has performed this particular economy of gesture so many times that it has become something close to elegance. The third vendor has no stall. He sits on a low block of stone with a small basket and sells nothing but garlic, braids of it hung from a hook behind him, loose heads of it arranged in the basket, the smell of it so absolute that it constitutes its own small weather system in a 2-meter radius around him. He does not call out. He does not need to. The smell does his advertising. The streets of Rome have been built without any plan that a modern eye would recognize as such. The great planned cities of the Roman world, the military colonies, the new foundations in the provinces, have their grids and their forums and their measured insulae set at right angles to measured roads. Rome itself, the original, grew the way all ancient cities grew, organically, following the lines of hills and rivers and old footpaths, streets bending where they needed to bend, widening where they could, narrowing to nothing where the buildings press too close. The result is a city that can be disorienting even to those who have lived in it for years, streets that seem to be going one direction and then quietly become another, alleys that open unexpectedly into small courtyards and then close again just as unexpectedly, routes that look direct on any mental map but that require, in practice, a knowledge of which corner to take and which to leave. Marcus knows these streets the way he knows the mended place on his sandal, not by thinking about them but by having absorbed them into his body over years of daily use. He turns where the street requires turning without looking up. He steps over the raised stone that marks the crossing point where a water channel runs beneath the road, a step he has made 10,000 times, a step his feet make without instruction. Around him the language of the street shifts and changes in ways that reflect the city's enormous diversity. Latin is the common tongue, the language of business and law and public life, the language you would use to make yourself understood to any Roman citizen from any province of the empire. But beneath the Latin, woven through it, are dozens of others, Greek, which in Rome is the language of the educated and the sophisticated, the language that upper-class Romans learn alongside Latin the way later aristocrats would learn French, and then Aramaic, and Egyptian, and the rough vowels of the Germanic languages, and the fluid cadences of North African speech, and 100 more that do not survive in any record, languages brought to Rome by slaves and soldiers and merchants and refugees and never written down, never taught to anyone's children, fading out over a generation or two as their speakers were absorbed into the vast Latin-speaking body of the city. A man passes Marcus speaking what might be Syriac. A woman behind a counter calls to a customer in what is recognizably Greek. Two soldiers at the corner speak to each other in a language Marcus does not know and does not particularly want to know. They are Praetorian Guard, their armor catching the morning light, their posture the particular posture of men who are armed and know it, and a small space opens around them naturally, without anyone deciding to open it. The Forum is not far now. Marcus does not go there, it is not on his way, and the Forum, with its marble temples and its crowds of toga-clad citizens and its lawyers and its senators and its noise of civic life being conducted in loud and earnest Latin, is not a place where a day laborer going to the docks has any particular business. But he passes close enough to hear it, the particular acoustic of a large open space filling with voices, the way sound behaves differently when it has room to expand, rising rather than pressing. He can smell the temples. This sounds like a strange thing to say, but it is true. The temples burn incense constantly, and the smoke of it drifts over the surrounding streets in waves that smell of cedar and resin and something sweeter underneath. And the Romans find this smell the smell of the sacred and the ordinary at once, the way that prayer, in a sufficiently religious culture, can become a background hum rather than a directed act. He passes a wall covered in writing. This too is Rome. The walls of the city are its public notice board, its newspaper, its social record. Painted announcements advertise gladiatorial games, a particular lanista offering the services of his fighters for an upcoming spectacle, the names and records of the featured combatants listed in red paint, the date and venue in larger letters above. Beside it, in a different hand and a different color, someone has written what appears to be a political endorsement, a candidate's name, and below it, in the formulaic language of Roman electoral graffiti, a list of his supporters, the Muleteers Guild, the bakers of the Subura district, a group identified only as the late-night drinkers of the Elephant Tavern, who apparently have opinions about civic governance and are not shy about sharing them. Someone has drawn a phallus next to the candidate's name. This too is Rome, apotropaic, crude, ubiquitous, and somehow entirely at home beside the formal political language above it. Marcus does not stop to read the wall. He has seen it all before. He keeps walking. The docks appear at the end of a street that slopes downward toward the river, and as he walks down it, the smell of the Tiber strengthens and the sound of the water rises to meet him, and the light changes, opens, broadens. The narrow street releasing him suddenly into the wider world of the riverbank, where the sky is visible without interruption and the water moves and the boats are already at their moorings and the great granary warehouses stand on the far bank like patient rectangles, waiting. There are men already gathered near the dock foreman's post. 30, perhaps 40 of them, standing in the loose and watchful way of men who are waiting to be chosen and who have learned not to look as though they are waiting to be chosen. They talk among themselves in low voices, or they stand separately, or they squat against the wall and look at nothing in particular. They are dock hands and grain carriers and loaders, men whose work is their bodies and whose bodies are their entire economic proposition. And every morning they come here and offer what they have and wait to see if it is wanted. Marcus takes his place among them. He does not speak to anyone. He stands with his hands loose at his sides and his face turned slightly toward the river, watching the water move, watching a boat being pulled toward the dock from midstream, watching the light on the Tiber in the early morning do the thing it does at this hour and no other, fracturing into 1,000 small pieces, each one briefly gold, briefly perfect, gone before you can hold it. The foreman appears. The day begins. There is a particular quality to the sound of someone working who has been working for a very long time. It is not the sound of effort. Effort is loud, effortful, it announces itself, it strains against what it is doing. What you hear from the hands of a person who has spent 10 or 15 or 20 years performing the same motion, day after day, in the same room, at the same bench, is something quieter and more absolute than effort. It is the sound of a thing being done the way water moves through a channel that has been cut exactly to its shape. There is no resistance. There is no announcement. There is only the motion, and the result of the motion, and then the motion again. Rome runs on these hands. Not the hands of the generals or the senators or the great men whose names fill the histories. Those hands sign documents and raise cups at banquets and gesture in the direction of things they want other people to do. The hands that actually run Rome are the ones you are going to meet this morning, in the workshops and the ovens and the dim back rooms that line these streets and keep this city fed and clothed and lit and whole. They have been at work since before Marcus reached the docks. Some of them have been at work since midnight. Most of them will not stop until the light fails. We will slow down now. We will stay with each pair of hands long enough to understand what they know. Begin at the bakery. You have been smelling it since chapter 1, since the very first moment of this night, that low and constant smell of bread moving through the dark air, the yeast and the char and the particular sweetness of grain being transformed by heat into something that will keep a person alive for another day. Now you are standing at the threshold of the place where that smell originates, and it is not a romantic place. It is a hot place. It is a flour-dusted, smoke-darkened, relentlessly warm place where 4 men have been working since the 11th hour of the previous night, approximately what we would call 5 in the afternoon, without stopping, without sleeping, their shifts timed not to the rising of the sun but to the rising of the dough. The baker himself is a man named Terentius Nemo. We know this because a bakery very like this one, in the ruins of Pompeii, has preserved above its doorway the painted name of its owner, and the excavated millstones still carry the grooves worn into them by years of grain. His name is almost certainly not famous. It has survived not because anyone thought to preserve it but because the volcano came before anyone had time to paint over it. This is how most Roman names survive, by accident, by disaster, by the particular mercy of destruction that freezes a moment before it can be superseded. Terentius Nemo does not know he will be remembered. He is thinking about bread. The millstones are the first thing, 2 large volcanic stones, the upper one hourglass-shaped to fit over the lower, turned by a donkey that walks its patient circle in the room adjacent to the oven. The grain feeds in through the top, ground between the stones as the upper one rotates, falling out at the base as flour, rough at first, then sifted through woven baskets to achieve the different grades of fineness that different customers require and different prices command. The finest white flour, sifted multiple times, is the flour of the wealthy, of the households on the Palatine Hill where slaves bake bread in private kitchens. The coarser flour, gray and heavy, is what feeds the rest of the city. Terentius shapes his loaves by hand. This too we know from Pompeii, where carbonized loaves still sit in their ovens in their original form, round, divided into 8 segments by deep cuts across the top, the shape immediately recognizable to anyone who has seen a modern Italian bread and thought it looked ancient, which it is, which it exactly is. He shapes each one with the same set of motions, the dough turned out onto the stone counter, pressed and folded and turned, pressed and folded and turned, a rhythm that his hands perform without his mind fully participating, leaving his mind free to wander wherever minds wander at 2 in the morning when the body is doing what it knows. The oven is domed and wood-fired, its interior so hot that the bakers cannot reach inside without a long-handled wooden paddle, the peel, an instrument so efficient and so perfectly designed for its purpose that it has not meaningfully changed in 2,000 years. Terentius slides the loaves in one by one, spaces them with a practiced eye, withdraws the paddle, and closes the oven mouth with a ceramic disc. Then he waits. The waiting is built into the bread, inseparable from it, and he does not find it tedious. He finds it, if anything, the most companionable part of the process, the moment when the work has been handed to the fire and the fire will do what fire does, and there is nothing left for human hands to contribute. He leans against the wall in the warm room. He closes his eyes for perhaps 10 minutes. He does not fully sleep. He has learned to rest in the intervals between actions, the way certain animals sleep standing, lightly, alertly, one part of the mind still listening for the moment when the bread is ready, when the smell changes from raw to done, when the crust begins to color and the kitchen fills with the particular communication of something that is exactly finished. He knows that smell. He has known it for 20 years. It has become the most reliable thing in his life. Across the street, in a long, narrow workshop that runs back from the road like a burrow, a metal worker named Philemon is doing something to a piece of iron that requires his complete attention and produces, in the process, a sound that should by rights be too harsh for this gentle hour of the morning, and yet somehow, in the context of the city, is simply another thread in the larger cloth of sound that Rome weaves around itself every day. He is a freedman, a former slave who has purchased or been granted his freedom and now operates this small workshop on his own account, employing 2 slaves himself, a fact that the Romans find neither ironic nor uncomfortable, it being simply the shape of the world they inhabit and have never been asked to question. He came originally from somewhere in the eastern provinces, Greece or Asia Minor, the precise origin lost even to himself after so many years in Rome, and he has been working iron since before he was free to choose what to work. His specialty is door fittings. Hinges, latches, the decorative iron studs that reinforce the heavy wooden doors of the better houses, the iron rings that serve as door handles throughout the city. It is not glamorous work, but it is constant work, which in Rome amounts to the same thing. The city is always building, always repairing, always replacing what the years and the fires and the floods have taken, and every door that goes up requires its fittings, and Philemon makes them. Watch his hands. The iron is heated in a small forge, a clay vessel packed with charcoal, air pumped through it by leather bellows worked by one of the slaves in a rhythm so steady and so continuous that the boy has the look of someone who has forgotten how to breathe any other way. When the iron reaches the right color, not red but a specific orange-white that Philemon reads as automatically as a word in his native language, he takes it with long tongs to the anvil and begins. The hammer falls. This is the sound you heard from outside, the sound that should be too harsh and is not. It falls not in the random pattern of someone striking a surface but in the precise and considered rhythm of someone shaping something, each blow placed, each blow purposeful, the iron turning slightly between strikes so that the force is distributed exactly where it needs to be distributed. In 30 seconds the hinge is roughed out. In 5 minutes it is finished, cooled in a bucket of water that hisses and steams as it receives the iron, the steam rising in a brief column toward the dark ceiling of the workshop. Philemon holds it up. He turns it once in the light from the doorway. He sets it on the shelf with the others. He goes back to the forge. Move further down the street, further into the morning, and you will find the fuller. The fuller is Gnaeus Elias, again, a real name from the walls of Pompeii, a city small enough that its foliaries have been excavated and mapped, their equipment still in place, their processes reconstructed by scholars who have spent careers trying to understand exactly how the Romans did their laundry. The process is not elegant. It involves large vats of water mixed with the urine collected from the pots outside the door, the ammonia in the urine acting as a cleaning and brightening agent that the Romans discovered through a combination of observation and experiment, and that works, by any objective measure, remarkably well. Wool cloth is placed in these vats and trodden by foot, the fuller's workers walking in place on the cloth, a motion that looks from the outside remarkably like a certain kind of slow dance, the feet moving in small deliberate steps, the body balanced, the whole operation taking on, in the morning light, an accidental grace. The cloth that comes out of the fuller's vats is white. Specifically the white that Rome associates with cleanliness, with citizenship, with the toga at its most formal, a white so complete and so uniform that it announces, to anyone who sees it, that someone has spent money on its maintenance, which is, in Rome, itself a form of communication. The senators and the great men who walk the forum in their impeccable togas are wearing the labor of Gnaeus Elias and men like him, wearing it without acknowledgement, wearing it as though the whiteness were natural, as though cloth arrived in the world already clean. Aeneas does not mind this. He was not raised to mind it, and he does not think about it often enough to have developed an opinion. He is thinking about the next batch of cloth, which is silk. Someone's wife, a wealthy household on the Esquiline Hill, has sent down a length of silk-dyed Tyrian purple that requires a delicacy of handling entirely different from wool, and Aeneas has set it aside until the morning when his hands are freshest and his attention is sharpest, and that time is now. He takes the silk between his fingers. He holds it up to the light and looks through it, reading the fabric the way a physician reads a face. He knows what it needs. His hands already know what it needs. He begins. And then there is the scribe. He sits in a room so small it is barely a room, a niche, really, carved into the front of a building on a street near the Temple of Saturn, open to the passing crowd on one side, closed on the other three by plastered walls that are marked with the accumulated ink of years, test marks, practice letters, calculations begun and abandoned. His name is unknown. He appears in no record except the fact of his niche, the fact of his trade, the fact that Romans who could not write needed someone who could, and were willing to pay for the service. He is a copier, a letter writer, a witness to documents, a translator when required. He sits on a low stool with his writing board, a wooden tablet covered with a thin layer of wax, balanced on his knee, and he writes with a stylus whose point he has sharpened this morning with a small knife, testing it against his thumbnail before beginning. For important documents, for letters that must endure, he uses papyrus, imported from Egypt, expensive, each sheet a small luxury, and a reed pen dipped in ink made from soot and gum and water. His handwriting is exceptional. This is his only real capital, this handwriting, the thing that separates him from any literate person who might otherwise do this work themselves. He has spent years developing it, years of practice on wax tablets that can be smoothed and used again, years of copying other documents to learn the forms and the formulae that documents require, and the result is a hand that moves across papyrus with the kind of confidence that reads, on the page, as authority. He is copying a legal document this morning, a contract for the sale of a mule, which is a straightforward piece of business requiring a straightforward set of clauses, which he assembles in his mind with the ease of a carpenter assembling a familiar joint. His hand moves steadily. The letters emerge even and clean. He does not look at what he is writing in the way a person looks at something they are composing. There is no consideration, no searching for words. He is a vehicle for language, precise and efficient, and his mind, like the baker's, is free to wander while his hands perform. He thinks about his daughter's cough, which has been worse this week. He thinks about the rent, which is due in 4 days. He thinks, briefly and without resolution, about whether the mule being sold in this document is worth what the seller is claiming it is worth, which is not his business and which he sets aside. His hand does not falter once. This is the city's true foundation. Not marble. Not concrete. Not the engineering of aqueducts or the politics of the Senate. The foundation is these hands, the bakers, the metal workers, the fullers, the scribes, and the 1,000 other pairs of hands working in 1,000 other workshops and stalls and back rooms this morning, each pair carrying a knowledge that took years to build and will take years more to exhaust. Rome has always understood this, even when it has not said so. The trade guilds, the collegia, are among the oldest institutions in the city, organizations of bakers, of metalworkers, of fullers, of scribes, of boatmen, of gravediggers, of goldsmiths, of fishermen, meeting regularly to manage their shared interests, to care for members who have fallen ill, to pay for the funerals of those who have died without family, to maintain the small temples to their patron gods. The collegia are, in many ways, the most democratic institutions Rome possesses, places where a freed slave and a freeborn citizen might sit at the same table and vote on the same question, their voices weighted equally by the fact of shared trade. They eat together, these guild members, at monthly dinners that are recorded in inscriptions found across the Roman world, menus listing what was served, wine measurements, the names of members who contributed extra funds for a particularly good meal. A guild of carpenters in Lanuvium, outside Rome, records its dinners with a specificity that suggests men who took their meals together very seriously. Bread, 4 sardines, 4 sextarii of wine. This was the feast. This was enough. They were enough, these people. More than enough. They were the hands that held the empire together long after the emperors had changed and the generals had changed and the gods themselves had been renegotiated. The bread kept rising. The iron kept being shaped. The cloth kept coming out white from its urine-soaked vats. The letters kept being copied in a steady and authoritative hand. The work continued. It always continued. By mid-morning, the street outside Philemon's workshop is fully dense with life, the crowd that Rome generates by simply existing, the constant ambient pressure of too many people in too little space that the residents have long since stopped experiencing as pressure and have begun to experience as the texture of ordinary life. The noise is considerable: vendors, arguments, animals, construction somewhere up the hill where a crew of slaves is dismantling a building that burned last winter and has been slowly subsiding into the street ever since. In the bakery, Terentius loads the last of the morning's loaves into baskets that will be carried by runners to the households and taverns that have ordered in advance, and sweeps the flour from his counter with the meditative efficiency of a man who has swept this same surface 10,000 times. The donkey that turned the millstone all night has been unhitched and led to its stable and is eating hay with the focused gratitude of a creature that has completed its portion of the world's work. In the fuller's shop, the silk is finished. Aeneas holds it up to the light one final time, white, or as white as the nature of the thing permits, its surface smooth, its drape perfect, ready to be wrapped in cloth and sent back to the Esquiline Hill where someone will shake it out and put it on and feel, for a moment, the specific pleasure of clean fabric against skin, a pleasure so simple and so complete that it requires no further explanation. In the niche near the Temple of Saturn, the scribe finishes his mule contract, shakes sand across the ink to dry it, and rolls the papyrus with the practiced motion of a man who has rolled 10,000 documents. He ties it with a cord, sets it on the shelf beside him, and looks out at the street. Somewhere in the crowd, a child drops a fig and watches it bounce across the cobblestones with an expression of pure philosophical desolation. The scribe watches too. Then his next customer steps into the niche, a woman with a length of cloth over her arm and the expression of someone who has a letter to write and has been putting it off for longer than she should have. He reaches for a fresh sheet of papyrus. He dips his pen. He begins. There is a counter on the corner of a street in the Subura district that has been warmed since before dawn. It is not a large counter. It is built of masonry, brick and mortar faced with fragments of marble and colored stone set into the surface in a pattern that was once decorative and is now simply familiar, worn smooth at the edges by years of elbows and hands resting against it. Set into the top of the counter are the dolia, large terracotta vessels sunk flush into the surface, their wide mouths open to the air, their contents kept warm by the heat of the charcoal burning in the chamber built beneath. If you lean over the counter and look down into the nearest one, you will see a dark liquid moving with the slow, barely perceptible motion of something that is very hot and very still at once, its surface sheened with oil, its smell rising toward you in a warm column that reaches the back of your throat before you have decided whether you are hungry. You are hungry. Everyone who comes to this corner is hungry. That is why they come. This is a thermopolium, the word the Romans use for what we might call a hot food counter, a tavern, a place of warm things and brief shelter and the specific comfort of eating food that someone else has prepared. The city has hundreds of them. Possibly thousands. The numbers are difficult to count because they were so ordinary, so woven into the fabric of daily Roman life, that no one thought to record them systematically, any more than we would think to make a census of coffee shops. They were simply there, on nearly every corner of every neighborhood, open from early morning until late at night, serving the great majority of Romans who had no kitchen of their own and no reliable means of cooking at home. The owner is a woman named Vetusha. We know her name because a thermopolium very like this one, excavated in Pompeii in recent years, one of the most complete and astonishing finds of modern archaeology, preserved above its counter a painted sign identifying the establishment, and nearby, in the electoral graffiti on the wall, her name appears among those supporting a local candidate. She was a real person who stood behind a real counter and served real food to real people on a real morning in the 1st century of the Common Era. The volcano took her city but not quite her name. She has been here since the 4th hour of the night. The charcoal needs time. The stocks need time. The chickpea stew that is her most reliable cellar requires simmering since before the light comes, the dried peas softened in water since yesterday, the onions and herbs added in sequence, the whole thing arriving at its proper consistency only after several hours of patient, low heat. She has done this so many times that the recipe exists not in any written form but in her hands and her nose. She knows when the stew is right the same way Terentius the baker knows when the bread is done, by smell, by the particular way the steam changes character, by a knowledge so embodied it has long since stopped feeling like knowledge and started feeling like instinct. Her counter holds, this morning, 5 dolia. In the first is the chickpea stew. In the second, a lentil preparation flavored with cumin and coriander, darker and drier than the stew, eaten with bread as a kind of paste. In the third, wine, not in the sense of fine wine served in a proper vessel, but the everyday wine of the thermopolium, a rough and honest wine probably from the slopes of one of the nearby hills, diluted with water in the Roman fashion, kept warm in winter, cool in summer, served in simple clay cups that go back to being rinsed between customers and served again. In the fourth dolia, olive oil, used as a condiment, as a dressing, as the finishing note on almost everything. In the fifth, on this particular morning, something that smells of roasted meat, a preparation of pork offal with herbs and garlic, the kind of dish that uses every part of the animal and apologizes for none of it, that fills the belly efficiently and completely and costs almost nothing and tastes, when you are hungry enough, like exactly what you needed. On the shelf behind Vitusha, visible to anyone standing at the counter, are amphorae, the tall, pointed clay vessels that carry wine and olive oil and fish sauce from one end of the Roman world to the other, from the vineyards of Gaul to the fish salting factories of the Iberian coast to this shelf in this Subura thermopolium where they are stacked at an angle, their pointed bases resting in a rack of wood, their wax-sealed mouths awaiting the tap of a mallet. And on a hook to the left of the shelf, a string of dried figs. This is the dessert. This is all the dessert. It is enough. The first customers of the day began arriving before it was properly light. They are, in the early hours, largely men, the workers, the laborers, the people who start their day before the city has fully opened. They come to the counter and state what they want with the economy of people who have very little time and very clear ideas, and Vitusha serves them with the same economy, ladling stew into bread bowls or handing across a cup of warm wine without ceremony. There is not much conversation at this hour. The men eat standing at the counter or just beside it, quickly, the way you eat when eating is a necessity rather than an event, and then they go. By the second hour after sunrise, the character of the counter changes. The standing crowd thickens. More women now, some with children pressed against their legs, some carrying baskets from their morning marketing, stopping at the thermopolium the way they stop at the fountain, as part of the natural rhythm of the morning rather than as a destination in itself. The children are given pieces of bread dipped in olive oil and dispatched to sit on the low bench along the wall, where they eat with the focused concentration of children who have been told to stay put and are taking the instructions seriously. There is a table, one table, pushed against the wall at the side of the establishment, with a bench on either side, shaded by the overhang of the building above. 3 men have been at it since the 3rd hour, their cups refilled twice already, their conversation low and continuous, the conversation of men who have known each other long enough that what they are saying is less important than the fact of saying it together. One of them is laughing at something. The laugh is the particular laugh of a person who finds something funny in a tired and affectionate way, not surprised by the humor but pleased to encounter it again, like a familiar path that is still pleasant even though you know exactly where it goes. Sit down. Take a cup if you want one. There is no requirement to do anything here except be present. The food of Rome is worth spending time with, because it is both stranger and more familiar than you might expect. The Romans have no tomatoes. Those will not arrive in Europe for another 15 centuries, carried back from the Americas on ships that have not yet been imagined. They have no potatoes. No peppers of the kind that make things hot, no chocolate, no coffee, no sugar in any quantity worth mentioning. The sweetener of Rome is honey, thick, dark, intensely flavored honey from hives kept across the empire, each region's honey carrying the specific character of its local flowers, recognizable to educated palates the way wine regions are recognizable to wine drinkers now. What they do have, olive oil in quantities and qualities that modern cooks would consider extraordinary, the Roman world being essentially organized around the olive tree in the way that later civilizations would organize around grain or coal. They have garum, that fermented fish sauce that appears in almost every Roman recipe that has survived, used not for fishiness per se but for its deep, complex savory quality, its ability to make other flavors more themselves, what we would now call umami if we were being scientific about it and call deliciousness if we were being honest. They have good bread, as you have already seen. They have an enormous variety of legumes, chickpeas, lentils, broad beans, the humble backbone of the diet of everyone who cannot afford to eat meat every day, which is most people, most days. They have fresh vegetables from the market gardens outside the walls. They have eggs. They have cheese, dozens of varieties, from the fresh soft cheese eaten with bread in the morning to the aged and crumbling varieties grated over dishes the way later cuisines would grate Parmesan. And they have wine. Always wine. The Romans drink wine the way later Northern Europeans drank beer, not as a luxury or an occasion but as the default beverage, the thing you have with your food, the thing you have instead of water in places where the water cannot be trusted, which in a city of 1 million people is more places than not. The wine is almost always diluted. Drinking undiluted wine is considered by the Romans as a mark either of barbarism or of a very specific kind of social occasion, neither of which applies to a Tuesday morning at a Sibura thermopolium. The ratio is typically 1 part wine to 2 or 3 parts water, the mixture warm or cool depending on the season, the cup plain clay or occasional bronze depending on the establishment. Vatusha moves behind her counter with the fluid assurance of a person who owns their space completely. She knows which dolia needs stirring. She knows which amphora is running low. She knows, without appearing to look, which customers have been waiting longest and which can wait a little more. She knows the names of perhaps 60 regular customers and the preferences of perhaps 40 of them, and she greets the ones she knows with a specific and genuine attention that is one of the unremarked skills of her trade, the ability to make a person feel, in the 30 seconds they stand at your counter, that they have been seen. This matters more in Rome than it might in a less anonymous city. Rome can be a lonely place. For all its density, for all the bodies pressed together in the streets and the insulae and the public spaces, the city is full of people who arrived from somewhere else and have not yet built the web of relationships that makes a place feel like home. The thermopolium is one of the few institutions of Roman life that serves this need openly, not just as a place to eat but as a place to exist alongside other people, briefly and without obligation, in the warmth of food being prepared and wine being poured and the general low murmur of a space that is doing what it was designed to do. The 3 men at the table are still talking. One of them has started gesturing with his cup, making a point about something. You cannot hear what. The ambient noise of the street absorbs the words before they reach you, and the others are listening with the particular listening of people who are going to disagree but are not yet ready to do so, storing their objections for the right moment. This too is Rome, the argument that has not yet happened, the cup lifted, the point being made, the counterpoint already forming behind attentive eyes. At midday, or what passes for midday, the Romans not having clocks in any meaningful sense but having a highly developed feel for the movement of the sun and what it implies about the time, Vatusha's counter is at its busiest. The morning workers have been replaced by a different crowd, shopkeepers who have left their shops in the care of a slave or an apprentice, women taking a break from the domestic labor of the morning, the occasional well-dressed man who has wandered into the Sibura from a more respectable neighborhood and is eating at a thermopolium counter with the self-conscious ease of someone who wants to appear unbothered by this choice. Children from the school that operates in the covered walkway 2 streets over have been released for a midday interval and descended on the street in a small, disorganized flood, their wax tablets tucked under their arms, their voices carrying the specific frequency of children who have been made to be quiet for several hours and are making up for it. 3 of them have come to Vitusha's counter with coins clutched in their fists and are deliberating over the lentil paste and the chickpea stew with a seriousness of purpose that the decision perhaps warrants, given that it represents a significant portion of the money they have been given. She is patient with them. She has children of her own. She knows how these negotiations go. The afternoon will slow things down. It always does. The heat of the Roman midday, even in spring, even in the mild seasons, settles over the city with a weight that encourages stillness. Shutters close against the sun. The streets empty somewhat. People who can sleep do. The thermopolium does not close. Vitusha does not close. She is not a person who closes, but the pace drops, the standing crowd thins. The 3 men at the table have finally arrived at whatever conclusion their conversation required and have gone their separate ways into the afternoon. In the quiet of the early afternoon, Vitusha refills the dolia from the pots she has kept simmering in the back. She wipes the counter with a cloth. She tastes the chickpea stew from a wooden spoon and adjusts something, a pinch of salt, a thread of olive oil, with the small and unhurried confidence of someone who knows what the dish needs and trusts herself to provide it. She sets the spoon down. She looks out at the street, which is quieter now, the light falling at a different angle across the cobblestones, the shadows beginning their long afternoon migration. She thinks about nothing in particular. Or perhaps she thinks about everything: the rent, the children, the amphora of Falernian wine she has been considering splurging on for the festival at the end of the month, the customer from this morning who reminded her, without knowing it, of her mother. The particular mathematics of a life being lived carefully, day by day, from one warm morning to the next. The coals beneath the dolia glow without drama. The wine sits warm in its vessel. The street breathes outside, slow and golden, going about its ancient business. And somewhere down the bench, a child is finishing her bread and olive oil with the complete and total satisfaction of a creature who has eaten what she needed and now requires nothing more from the world except perhaps a few more minutes of sitting in the warm shade before the afternoon calls her back to whatever the afternoon requires. She licks her fingers. She looks at the empty bread. She looks at Vitusha. Vitusha cuts her another piece. There is a door on the Via Appia that is always slightly warm to the touch. Not hot. Not the aggressive heat of a bakery oven or a metalworker's forge, nothing that startles the hand or demands a response. Simply warm. The kind of warmth that exists just at the edge of noticing, that you might walk past 100 times without registering until one afternoon you press your palm flat against the stone and hold it there and understand that something on the other side of this wall has been generating heat for hours, steadily and without interruption, the way the earth generates heat, not as an event but as a condition, as simply the nature of the thing. This is the entrance to the public baths. The thermi. And the warmth you feel through the stone is the warmth of the hypocaust, the Roman underfloor heating system, one of the most quietly extraordinary pieces of engineering in the ancient world, in which a wood-burning furnace feeds hot air through a raised floor and up through hollow channels in the walls, turning an entire building into a slow and even source of warmth that begins hours before the first bather arrives and sustains itself through the afternoon and into the early evening. The heat stored and released by the mass of stone and tile the way the cobblestones of Rome store the warmth of the summer sun. Push the door open. Step inside. The Romans visit the baths the way later cultures will go to church, not necessarily because they feel a strong individual calling on any particular day, but because it is what one does, because the rhythm of daily life has a space in it that the baths fill, because the alternative to going is staying home alone in a small room, and the baths are the opposite of a small room in every possible way. They are open to nearly everyone. The entry fee is minimal, a quadrans, the smallest denomination of Roman coin, roughly equivalent to nothing at all in practical terms, and often waived entirely for children and occasionally for women on certain days, depending on the establishment and the generosity of whoever is paying for its upkeep, which is sometimes the state, sometimes a wealthy patron seeking the particular kind of social credit that comes from providing a city with a place to be clean and warm and together. The great imperial baths that will eventually rise under later emperors, the baths of Caracalla, the baths of Diocletian, vast marble complexes capable of accommodating thousands simultaneously, are still in the future. But even in the 1st century there are hundreds of smaller establishments across the city, neighborhood baths of modest scale, each one a contained world of warmth and water and the low, collective exhale of a city that has been working since dawn and has arrived here to put that down for a while. Follow the afternoon crowd inside. The apoditerium is the first room, the changing room, its walls lined with niched shelves where bathers leave their clothes and their sandals, watched over either by a slave they have brought for the purpose or, if they are less wealthy, by a bath attendant of uncertain trustworthiness and a personal vigilance that visitors are advised not to relax entirely. Theft in the apoditerium is a recurring complaint in Roman writing, a specific and petty crime that the Romans find irritating in the way that only very common crimes are irritating, not dramatic enough to be alarming, common enough to be genuinely annoying. The poet Martial complains about it. The satirist Juvenal complains about it. It has been going on for as long as there have been baths, which is a very long time, and it will continue regardless. The floor here is already warm through the soles of the feet, the hypocaust beginning its argument for relaxation before you have even removed your tunic. The room smells of the particular mixture that is specific to bathhouses everywhere, stone and water and clean skin and the oils and unguents that the bathers apply before and after, a smell that is warm and slightly sweet and faintly mineral, not unpleasant, the smell of a place designed around the idea of the body being taken care of. Undress. Fold your tunic on the shelf. Leave your sandals beside it. You are in Rome now, and in Rome the body is not a source of embarrassment. The Romans bathe communally and without particular self-consciousness, nudity in the baths being simply the practical condition of bathing rather than any kind of statement or vulnerability. Men and women bathe separately in most establishments, either in different wings of the same building or at different hours of the day, and within those separated spaces the nakedness of the bathers is as unremarkable as the nakedness of people in a locker room anywhere, which is to say, noticed only when something about it is specifically notable, and otherwise simply the background condition of being here. The first room proper is the tepidarium, the warm room. It exists as a threshold, a transition, a kindness offered to the body before the greater demands of what comes next. The temperature here is what the word says it is, tepid, moderate, neither the coolness of the street outside nor the intensity of the rooms beyond. It is the temperature of a comfortable afternoon, of sun on stone, of a room that has been lived in by warm bodies long enough to hold their warmth without any bodies needing to be in it. Benches line the walls, stone benches, smoothed by use, warmed by the floor beneath, and many bathers spend time here simply sitting, allowing the warmth to work its way inward from the skin, feeling the body's accumulated tensions begin, slowly, to renegotiate their position. The light in the tepidarium is unlike the light of the street outside. The windows are small and set high in the walls, designed not for the view but for the ventilation of steam, and because the glass that fills them, when there is glass rather than oiled cloth or simply open space, is thick and slightly greenish tinged, the light that filters through has a quality of being underwater, of having traveled through something on its way to you, of arriving softened and diffuse and without edges. It is very easy, in this light, to let the eyes become unfocused. It is very easy to let the afternoon become formless. A man on the bench beside you is already half asleep, his head fallen slightly forward, his breathing the slow and deliberate breathing of someone who has surrendered the afternoon without regret. No one disturbs him. The baths are one of the few places in Rome where sleeping in public is not only accepted but expected. The city has so few spaces of genuine quietude that the ones it has are treated with a respect that the Romans might not even be able to articulate if asked, but that shows in the lowered voices, the unhurried movements, the general conspiracy of people who have all agreed, without discussion, to let this place be what it is. The caldarium is through the next door, and you will know it before you reach it. The heat comes to meet you in the corridor, not the gentle progressive warmth of the tepidarium but something more immediate, more absolute, a heat that has weight and presence, that presses against the face and the chest and announces itself clearly. The Romans call this heat beneficial, medicinal, the proper environment for the opening of the pores and the loosening of what the body has accumulated, the dust of the streets, the sweat of the morning's labor, the various accumulated tensions of a life being lived in close quarters with a million other lives. Step through the door. The caldarium is the heart of the baths. The room is dominated by the large central pool, the alveus, filled with water so hot it steams visibly, the steam rising and collecting at the ceiling in a slow drift, the room above the water line perpetually in a state of soft, warm mist that softens all edges, that makes the far wall of the room seem slightly less certain than the near one, that gives the whole space the quality of something half-dreamed. The water is not entirely clear. It has the slight cloudiness of water that has been heated in stone vessels and filtered through Roman plumbing of varying quality and touched by the skin of many bodies over the course of an afternoon. The Romans are practical about this. They bathe not for the pristine sterility of the water, they have no germ theory, no concept of contamination in the modern sense, but for the heat itself, for the loosening, for the ritual of immersion that the body understands in a way that the mind does not need to explain. The heat is the medicine. The water is the medium. The effect is the thing. Lower yourself in. Slowly. The shock of it, the initial sharp clarity of very hot water against skin that has not yet adjusted, passes in a matter of seconds, replaced by something that has no precise opposite. Not comfort exactly, though it is deeply comfortable. Not relaxation exactly, though the muscles are releasing things they have been holding since before you knew they were holding them. Something more fundamental than either, the body returning, degree by degree, to some temperature it had always meant to be, a warmth that seems less like something applied from outside and more like something remembered from within. Stay here for a moment. There is no hurry. There has never been less hurry than there is right now. Around you in the caldarium, Rome is briefly equal. This is the quiet miracle of the baths, the thing that Roman writers note with a kind of wondering regularity, as though they find it surprising every time. In the water, the merchant and the laborer, the freed slave and the freeborn citizen, the men from Rome and the men from the provinces, the old and the young are simply bodies of roughly similar temperature, sharing the same steam, breathing the same warm air. The distinctions that organize every other aspect of Roman life, of class, of citizenship, of legal status, of wealth, are bundled with the clothes and left in the apodyterium. They will be waiting when you come out. But for now, in the water, they are not relevant. Men talk in the caldarium. They talk more freely here than in most other places, the heat and the enclosure creating a specific kind of candor, the conversations that happen in hot water being somehow less guarded, more genuine, less concerned with performance, than the conversations of the street. They talk about business, about family, about the cost of grain and the behavior of the aediles and the upcoming games and the man down the street who has been behaving in a way that invites discussion. They talk about their ailments. The Romans are great catalogers of ailments, possessing a highly developed hypochondria that the baths actively encourage, each visit providing both the opportunity for complaint and the temporary relief that makes the complaint bearable. Occasionally someone says something funny and the laughter rises with the steam, slow and warm, briefly filling the room before it disperses. Occasionally no one says anything at all, and the silence is fine. There is a man in the far corner of the caldarium who has been here since the beginning of the afternoon session. He is old, not ancient, not frail, but old in the way that Rome makes people old, which is more quickly than the years alone would account for. His face has the particular quality of faces that have spent decades in a hot climate working physically demanding labor, creased deeply, browned evenly, the skin tight over the bone in some places and loose in others, the whole arrangement somehow more characterful than conventionally beautiful, the face of a person who has had a very large number of experiences. He floats in the water with his eyes closed and his arms spread slightly from his sides, the way a person floats when they have fully released the muscular habit of holding themselves together. He is not asleep. His breathing is too regular, too intentional for sleep. He is practicing something, or remembering something, or simply being somewhere inside himself that the noise of Roman life does not easily permit. His lips move occasionally, very slightly, with the motion of someone counting or praying or reciting something private. No one disturbs him. He has earned, somehow, without any visible negotiation, the right to his corner of the water. The other bathers move around him in the unconscious choreography of shared space, giving him his territory without being asked, the way you give territory to someone who is clearly, completely elsewhere. After a while he opens his eyes. He looks at the ceiling, the domed ceiling of the caldarium, its plaster stained with decades of condensation, its surface mottled and uneven in the way of old surfaces that have absorbed too much of the lives conducted beneath them to maintain their original smoothness. He looks at it for a long time. Whatever he sees there satisfies him. He closes his eyes again. The frigidarium comes last, the cold room, the cold plunge, the shock that the Romans consider the necessary completion of the bathing sequence, the thermal punctuation that closes what the heat has opened, tightens what the steam has loosened, returns the body to the temperature at which it can re-engage with the world outside. The cold pool is small and deep and very still, its surface undisturbed when no one is in it, a precise and slightly intimidating rectangle of water that is perhaps 10 degrees below the temperature of everything else in this building. Most bathers approach it the way most people approach cold water, with a combination of intention and dread, the internal argument between the part of the mind that knows this is good for you and the part of the body that has just been warm and does not see why that should change. The Romans do not linger on this argument. They go in, because the sequence requires it, because the attendants recommend it, because the old man who has been coming here for 30 years and whose skin has the particular smoothness of someone who has done this 3 times a week for 3 decades says without fail that it is the cold that makes everything else worth it. The cold hits the skin all at once and the breath goes and the mind empties completely. For one precise and total moment there is nothing in the head except cold, nothing in the experience except the body's absolute presence in this water at this temperature, every cell of it awake and attending, everything that was weighing on the afternoon scoured clean in an instant. Then you climb out. And the air of the room, which is the same air you breathed on the way in, feels, against the cold water skin, warm. Bathers leave the baths in the late afternoon in a state that the Romans consider the proper condition for the evening ahead, cleaned, oiled, their skin attended to by the bathing attendants who for a small fee will scrape the oil and sweat from the skin with a curved metal tool called a strigil, applying fresh oil afterward. The whole process leaving the skin with a particular smoothness and a faint clean smell of olive oil that is the smell of Roman cleanliness, the smell by which a well-maintained Roman body makes itself known. They dress in the apoditerium, their clothes still there, mostly, the theft having been avoided this afternoon through vigilance or luck or the simple honesty of today's particular crowd, and they emerge into the street in the early evening light, blinking slightly, their bodies several degrees warmer than when they arrived, their minds softer, their relationship to the remaining hours of the day fundamentally different from their relationship to the hours before. The city is still there. The noise is still there. The rent is still due and the children still need feeding and Marcus still does not know whether the shipment of grain from Ostia arrived today or whether tomorrow will bring more waiting at the dock. All of that is still true. It will still be true when they wake tomorrow. But the body has been warm. The body has been held, briefly, in heat and water and steam and the anonymous, democratic company of other bodies doing the same thing for the same reasons. The body has been, for an hour or two, released from the requirements of the day and allowed to simply be what it is, warm, alive, floating in the particular human medium of water at the right temperature, in a room full of steam and low voices and the sound of water being poured and the smell of olive oil and the old man with his closed eyes and his moving lips and his 30 years of coming to this corner of this pool and finding, each time, whatever it is he finds there. The evening is waiting. The city is waiting. But for a moment, just here, at the threshold of the baths and the street, with the warmth still in the skin and the cool evening air beginning to make itself known, for just this moment, there is nothing required. There is only this. The warmth. The light going golden over the rooftops. The body, quiet and clean and entirely present. Breathe in. Breathe out. Rome can wait. History has a habit of looking up. It looks toward the elevated places, the Palatine Hill where the emperors live, the rostra in the forum where the great speeches are delivered, the triumphal arches built to the scale of men who want to be remembered at the scale of gods. It has always preferred height. It records what rises and what falls, what is declared and what is contested, what leaves a mark in stone large enough that the stone survives. This is not a criticism of history exactly. It is simply a description of what history is, a story told by the people who had time to write it down, about the people they considered worth writing about, in a language they expected other educated people to read. But most of life happens low to the ground. It happens in the alley behind the insula, where a group of children are playing a game with knucklebones in the late afternoon shadow. It happens at the loom set up near the window on the second floor, where a woman moves the shuttle through the warp thread with a motion so practiced it has become part of her breathing. It happens in the corner of a wealthy household's kitchen, where an enslaved man is grinding grain for the evening meal, his mind somewhere very far from this room, his hands continuing without him. It happens in the places that received no marble and no inscription, in the lives that left no monument except the fact that they were lived, completely and continuously, day after day, in this city, in this century, in this light. We are going to stay low for a while. We are going to slow down even further than we have been going, which has already been very slow. There is something here that requires that slowness, that deserves it, these lives that the histories walk past without slowing down for. The children first. In the alley behind the Vicus Tuscus, 5 children are playing with the serious absorption that children bring to play, the full and complete investment of attention that adults sometimes call childlike as though it were a limitation rather than the most efficient use of consciousness available to any human being. The game they are playing is called Tali, and it involves 4 knucklebones, actual bones from the ankles of sheep or pigs, dried and smooth from handling, thrown into the air and caught on the back of the hand, then thrown again, points assigned to each configuration in which they land, the scoring system complicated enough that there is always something to argue about, which is perhaps the point. The bones are old. One of them has been repaired with a smear of something dark, pitch perhaps, where it cracked. Another has been marked on one face with a small scratched X that its owner added at some point for reasons she has since forgotten, but that has become part of the object, part of its identity, part of what it means to own this particular bone rather than any other. She holds it between her fingers before she throws and rubs the X with her thumb, not as superstition exactly but as habit, the way people touch things they are fond of. These children are between perhaps 6 and 12 years old, barefoot despite the still warm cobblestones, their tunics the shorter and rougher versions of the adult garments they will grow into, their hair, the girls pinned imperfectly, the boys cropped close, picking up the last of the afternoon light in ways their owners are entirely unaware of. They are making a considerable amount of noise. The noise of children playing in an alley is one of the sounds that has not changed at all across 2,000 years, the same rising and falling argument over scoring, the same burst of laughter at an unexpected outcome, the same brief silence of complete concentration followed by the same communal exclamation when the concentration produces something worth exclaiming about. The Romans have strong and specific feelings about childhood. They idealize it in their poetry with the particular nostalgia of people who know that childhood ends, and they are practical about it in their daily lives with the particular practicality of people who know that childhood is also temporary and that what a child becomes matters as much as what a child is. Boys from families of means are in school by the time they are 6 or 7. The schools that operate in covered walkways and rented rooms across the city. Their teachers often Greek freedmen whose learning was their ticket to a kind of modest stability. The curriculum centered on reading, writing, arithmetic, and the memorization of texts that the Romans consider foundational to civilized life. Girls from these same families are educated too, though less formally, and the Romans are notably less conflicted about female literacy than many later civilizations will be. Literate women are considered an asset to a well-run household, and the letters and poems left by educated Roman women suggest they took the opportunity seriously. For the children in the alley, school is either finished for the day or was never quite their reality. They are the children of the insulae, their education's practical and informal, watching, doing, absorbing the specific knowledge of their parents' trades and the general knowledge of the street. The girl with the marked knucklebone already knows how to spin thread on a drop spindle, has known since she was 4. The older boy knows which streets are safe at which hours and which vendors will look the other way when a piece of fruit falls from their stall. The small child at the edge of the group who is too young to fully follow the game knows, already, the feel of cobblestone under bare feet and the particular coolness of fountain water on a hot day and the smell of her mother's hair, which is the smell of safety and the smell of home and the smell of the only world she has yet been required to navigate. These are not small things to know. They are the beginning of a life. Move up the stairs, to the second floor, to the window where the light still comes. A woman named Iulia is weaving. This is not a trivial statement. Weaving in the Roman world is not a hobby or a craft practiced for its own pleasures, though it has those too. It is the fundamental domestic labor by which a household clothes itself, the work that every Roman woman is expected to know and that many spend a significant portion of every waking day performing. The loom that Iulia works is a vertical warp-weighted loom, its upper beam fixed to the wall above the window, its warp threads hanging straight and even and held taut at their lower ends by clay weights that knock softly against each other when the loom is disturbed, a sound that has been present in this room for so many hours of so many days that Iulia no longer hears it, any more than she hears the fountain outside or the millstone or the specific creak of the third stair. The shuttle moves through the warp. Left to right. Right to left. The pattern she is making is a simple one. This is not the elaborate tapestry work of wealthy women who have enough enslaved labor to handle the household's practical needs and can dedicate their own weaving to display, but even in its simplicity it requires the body's full unconscious attention, the hands maintaining the tension of the thread at exactly the right degree of looseness, the eye traveling the emerging fabric for irregularities, the whole system of attention that expert manual work develops over years of practice and that runs, in the experienced practitioner, parallel to conscious thought rather than replacing it. Iulia is thinking about her sister, who lives in Ostia and whom she has not seen in 2 years. She is thinking about the cost of a new oil lamp wick, which is small but not nothing. She is thinking, with a low and non-urgent awareness, about the smell coming from the street below, which suggests that the butcher 2 doors down has received a delivery of something that has traveled some distance to reach him, and which makes her think that this evening's shopping will not include meat, which she was not planning to buy in any case but is now additionally not planning to buy. She is thinking about all of these things while the shuttle moves, and none of them interrupts the weaving, and the weaving does not interrupt any of them. This is the intimate economy of a life organized around work that is never quite finished, the cloth always in progress, the household always in motion, the mind free to range over whatever it needs to range over because the hands know what to do without being supervised. The cloth growing on the loom is the color of undyed wool, that warm, slightly gray off-white that is the baseline color of Roman textile life, the color that will become a tunic or a blanket or a length of fabric to hang in a doorway or to wrap a child against the cold. It is not beautiful in any dramatic sense. It is beautiful in the sense that all made things are beautiful when made by someone who knows how to make them. The evenness of the weave, the slight variation in shade that comes from the natural differences between one batch of wool and another, the particular density that Elia achieves by years of habitual consistency that she would struggle to explain and could certainly not write down. When Elia is gone, and Rome will take her, eventually, as it takes everyone, the fever that moves through the insulae in summer, the childbirth that does not go well, the accumulation of small depletions that constitute a life lived without medical science or adequate nutrition or enough rest, the cloth she is making now may outlast her by decades. Cloth survives, in the dry conditions of the Roman world, in ways that wood and leather and the softer organic materials do not. Someone may wear this tunic without knowing whose hands made it. Someone may sleep under this blanket without knowing the name of the woman who sat at this window in this light, her mind on her sister in Ostia, the clay weights clicking softly against each other below. This is how most people persist, not in stone, not in writing, but in the things their hands made that other hands continue to use, long after the making was forgotten. Now lower still. To the back of a fine house on the Celian hill, to the rooms below the main floor, to the kitchen where the charcoal is lit and the pots are already on and the evening meal is already in its early stages, the point in the afternoon when the kitchen begins its particular phase of focused production that will culminate in 2 or 3 hours in a meal being carried upstairs to people who will eat it without considering, in any specific way, how it came to be in front of them. The man grinding grain in the corner is named, in the records of this household, only by a number, or by a diminutive, a nickname given without sentiment, the kind of name you give something you use rather than something you know. He is enslaved. He was bought at the slave market near the Forum, the one that operates with the same municipal regularity as the grain market and the cattle market, the one that the Romans pass without finding its existence remarkable, because it has always been there, because the economy of Rome at every level of its functioning depends on it, because the approximately 1/3 of Rome's population who are enslaved are so woven into the fabric of daily life that the fabric cannot be imagined without them. He grinds the grain with a small hand mill, a rotary quern, 2 flat stones of roughly the same diameter as a dinner plate, the upper one turned by a handle, the grain fed through a hole in the center, the flour falling around the edges into a shallow wooden bowl. It is not heavy work, not the brutal grinding of the large bakery millstones turned by animals. It is simply continuous work, the kind of work that asks nothing dramatic of the body and gives nothing back except its completion. His hands move in their circle. The grain becomes flour. The bowl fills. Where his mind goes, we cannot know. This is the most honest thing that can be said about the inner lives of the enslaved in Rome. We cannot know. The sources that might tell us, their own words, their own accounts, their own expression of what it meant to be this person doing this work in this kitchen, do not exist, or exist only in the most fragmentary and mediated forms, filtered through the words of people who owned them or wrote about them from the outside, which is not the same as knowing them at all. What we have is the physical evidence, the hand mills found in excavations, worn to exactly the shape of the hands that worked them. The graffiti on kitchen walls, single words, sometimes a name, sometimes something that might be a prayer or might be a complaint or might simply be the mark of someone who needed, for a moment, to make a mark. The small personal objects found in the areas of houses that slaves occupied, a clay bead, a small bronze figurine, a piece of colored glass picked up somewhere and carried in a pocket. These are not nothing. They are everything, actually. They are the only record left by people who were given no other means of being recorded, and they should be held accordingly, with the care and the weight they deserve, as evidence of lives that were real and complete in their own, regardless of what the law said about them, regardless of what the people upstairs called them. The flower fills the bowl. The hands continue. Somewhere upstairs, the family is beginning to gather for the evening meal. The children in the alley have put away their knucklebones. The light is changing, the specific shift from afternoon to evening that the Romans read as well as we read a clock, the long shadows, the air cooling by degrees, the vendors in the street below beginning to think about closing up. One of the children has been called in, a voice from a window above, not harsh but firm, the voice of someone who has called this name many times and knows exactly how many times it takes. The child goes. The others look after her for a moment, then reconfigure around her absence and continue. Elia's hands are still. She has reached the end of her warp thread and must add more before she can continue, a process that requires a careful attention that she will give it tomorrow morning, in better light. She unties the shuttle from the loom and wraps the thread around it and sets it on the shelf. She looks at what she has made today, perhaps a hand's width of cloth added to the length that was there this morning. It is not visible progress. It is the kind of progress that only reveals itself over weeks, the cloth lengthening so gradually that the change is not perceptible from one day to the next, only in the comparison between where you started and where you are now, which is a kind of progress that Rome understood and that required a patience the city both demanded and cultivated. She reaches up and closes the shutter halfway against the evening air. The click of the clay weights goes quiet. Somewhere in the house below her, her daughter is telling someone something at length and with great urgency, her voice rising and falling in the particular cadence of a child reporting an injustice suffered during the afternoon, every detail considered equally important, the narrative circling back on itself to make sure nothing has been missed. Elia listens from above, not quite making out the words, hearing only the music of the telling, the way a child's voice sounds when they believe absolutely that what they are saying matters and that the person they are saying it to will understand. She smooths the cloth on the loom with one hand. The wool is warm under her palm from the afternoon light that has been falling on it for hours. She goes downstairs to listen. The light in Rome changes before anything else does. It happens the way all the most important changes happen, gradually, and then all at once, and then you cannot quite remember what the world looked like before. An hour ago the sun was directly over the city, pressing its weight down onto the streets with the flat and indiscriminate authority of a Roman summer afternoon. Now it has moved, it has always been moving, it moves without stopping, it has been moving since before there was a city here to move over, and the angle of it has changed in the way that only the angle of late afternoon light changes, tipping from vertical to diagonal, from overhead to alongside, from a light that flattens things to a light that reveals them. the shadows have lengthened. This is the first language of Roman evening, the first announcement that the day is preparing to retire. They stretch out from the base of every column, every wall, every insula, and temple and market stall, pointing long and thin toward the east as though indicating something in that direction worth attending to, though there is nothing in the east at this hour except the darkening that the night has been assembling all day on the other side of the world. The cobblestones, which at midday were undifferentiated stone, become at this angle a surface of small individual shadows and small individual lights, each stone distinct, the whole road suddenly textured in a way it was not an hour ago. On the Palatine Hill, where the light catches the upper stories of the imperial residence, the walls have turned the color of old bronze. On the Capitoline, the temple of Jupiter catches the last direct sun on its gilded roof tiles, not gleaming, not dazzling, but a deep and settled gold, the gold of something that has been warm all day and is now exhaling that warmth back into the cooling air. In the valleys between the hills, where the streets run in the shadow of the buildings on either side, the light has already left, and the blue-gray of early evening is settling into the stones like water finding its level. The city is changing its register. The morning belongs to urgency, to Marcus walking toward the docks, to the baker finishing his last loaves, to the vendors arranging their stalls with the focused energy of people who know that early placement is the difference between a good day and a poor one. The afternoon belongs to the baths, to the thermopolium at its quietest, to the slow horizontal hours when the heat discourages anything more demanding than sitting still. But the evening belongs to something else. Something between the day's labor and the night's rest that has no single name but that every working person in every city in every century has felt, the specific quality of the hours between finishing and sleeping, when the body has been used and the mind begins, very tentatively, to let things go. Watch the vendors now. The woman who sells vegetables from the small piazza near the Vicus Tuscus is packing her table. She works with the efficiency of someone who has packed this same table every evening for years, the unsold leeks bundled and wrapped in damp cloth, the dried beans returned to their sack, the clay bowl with the green leafy things covered and set aside for tomorrow morning when they will still be sellable, barely. She folds the cloth that covered her display and tucks it under her arm. She lifts the wooden table. It is lighter than it looks. She has carried it every day for 20 years and her arms have shaped themselves to its weight, and carries it back through the door behind her that leads into the courtyard where her family lives. Her husband is already home. This is unusual and she notes it without comment, setting the table against the wall with a small, precise motion. He is sitting in the courtyard with a cup of something and an expression that means the work did not go well today, which she understands from the posture before she can read the face. She does not ask immediately. She puts away the beans. She covers the bowl. She washes her hands at the courtyard cistern, the water cool against skin that has been in the sun since before dawn. Then she sits beside him and they are quiet together for a little while, in the way that people are quiet together when they have been married long enough that silence is not an absence of communication but a form of it. Somewhere above them, their daughter is singing something. In the Forum, that great open rectangle at the heart of the city, surrounded by the temples and the basilicas and the rostra and the sacred buildings that accumulated here over centuries the way sediment accumulates at the bottom of a river, each generation adding to what was left by the one before, the afternoon's crowd is thinning. The lawyers who argued their cases in the basilica porticos have gathered their documents and their assistants and departed. The money changers at their tables have counted their day's takings and closed their strongboxes. The men who spent the morning conducting the various transactions that constitute the business of empire, the sale of property, the witnessing of wills, the complex negotiations that keep a city of this size and this wealth in motion, are making their way home, or to the dinner parties that are, for men of their class, the evening's primary occupation and primary arena. The forum does not empty completely. It never empties completely. There are always figures in it at any hour, the poor sleeping in corners where the night watchmen haven't yet driven them away, the odd student sitting on the steps of a temple with a scroll open on his knees, reading in the last of the light with the focused desperation of someone trying to extract one more hour from a diminishing resource. A priest of some minor deity makes his rounds of the small shrines that cluster around the edges of the space, relighting the oil lamps that have gone out during the afternoon, his face in the brief flare of each new flame expressing nothing in particular. This is routine. This is his evening. This is what devotion looks like when it has been performed long enough to become simply the shape of a day. The oil lamps. This is the other language of Roman evening, the other announcement, the companion to the lengthening shadows, the lamps coming on. They are small things, most of them. Simple molded clay, teardrop-shaped, a wick of twisted flax drawn through the narrow spout at the front, the reservoir filled with olive oil that will burn for anywhere from 2 to 8 hours depending on the quality of the oil and the length of the wick and the care with which the lamp has been trimmed. They give a small, warm, amber light. Not the white light of a candle, not the broad diffusion of electric illumination, a focused, intimate, slightly flickering amber that reaches perhaps a meter in any direction before the darkness reasserts itself. Each lamp is, in effect, a small argument for warmth in a particular spot, a small claim of habitation against the dark. As the sun drops behind the hills to the west, the Janiculum, the Mons Vaticanus, the low hills across the Tiber that the city has not yet formally claimed but that it already begins to consider, the lamps come on across the city in a sequence that has no conductor but that proceeds with the logic of human behavior responding to a single stimulus, the dark coming, and the need for light. On the ground floors first, in the shops and the thermopolia and the workshops where the last of the day's work is being finished by lamplight. Then on the upper floors of the insulae, the small lights appearing in the window openings one by one, irregular and warm, the whole city becoming gradually luminous in a way that is not dramatic. Nothing about this is dramatic, it is simply light answering dark, but that has, from any position of distance or height, a beauty that the Romans themselves are moved to describe in exactly those terms, in poems and letters that say, "Look at Rome in the evening, when the lamps come on across the 7 hills, when the city lights itself against the night. Stand somewhere high for a moment. On the steps of the Temple of Saturn, which offers a prospect over the Forum to the hills beyond. Or on the Aventine, which looks down over the river and the city stretching away to the north and east. Or simply on the roof of any insula, where the air is clear and the city spreads out in every direction and the sky above it is doing something that deserves attention. The sky above Rome in the evening is the sky of the Mediterranean, not the low gray sky of northern Europe, not the pale washed-out sky of colder latitudes, but a sky that retains color long after the sun has gone, that moves through sequences of orange and deep red and then a violet blue of such specific quality that later painters will spend careers trying to reproduce it, that finally arrives at a darkness that is never quite absolute because the stars here are very bright, and there are so many of them, and the air between the earth and them is clear and dry and does not blur their light the way northern air blurs things. The Romans know their stars. Not in the way of astronomers, with instruments and calculations, though the astronomers exist and their instruments exist and their calculations have been going on for centuries. The ordinary Roman knows the stars the way a person knows the streets of their own neighborhood, by presence, by familiarity, by the way certain configurations return at certain seasons and signal the arrival of the planting time or the harvest or the season of storms. The Pleiades rising means something. Orion's return means something else. The sky is not decorative, it is information, it is calendar, it is the clock that was keeping time year long before any human built a sundial to supplement it. Tonight the sky above Rome is clear. The first stars are appearing now in the deepening blue above the Esquiline hill, not many yet, not the full and crowded sky that the deep dark will eventually produce, but the first ones, the brightest ones, the ones that appear before their neighbors as though staking a claim. The Romans call them by names. They have been named for so long that the names feel older than naming, feel like something that was always true rather than something someone once decided. Below the stars, the city settles into its evening rhythm. Marcus is home from the docks. The shipment from Ostia did arrive, as it turned out, late, but it arrived, and there was work, and his body knows the weight of it in the way bodies know the weight of work that has been completed rather than deferred. He climbed the stairs of the insula as the light was changing, and Faustina heard his particular step on the third stair and looked up from what she was doing with the expression of someone noting the arrival of something expected and welcome. They did not say very much to each other. They did not need to. The brazier is lit for the evening. The charcoal gives its low red glow in the center of the room, its heat modest but present, its light adding to the lamp on the shelf and creating the specific quality of illumination that is Roman domestic evening, warm, close, the shadows pressing in from the edges, everything within the lamp's reach intimate and clear, everything beyond it simply dark. The daughter is asleep at the foot of the bed already, having succumbed to the day's accumulated motion somewhere between the evening meal and the intention of staying awake a little longer. Faustina sits near the lamp and spins. Not the large loom that belongs to Iolia 2 floors up, a small drop spindle, worked by hand, drawing out the thread from a mass of prepared wool that sits in her lap. The spindle turns, drops, is wound, turns again. The thread grows. The lamp burns. Outside the window the city moves through its evening in a lower register than the day, voices but fewer voices, footsteps but more measured footsteps, the occasional cart beginning its nighttime passage now that the day's ben has lifted, wheels on cobblestone traveling through the dark toward the warehouses and the markets. In the bakery, Terentius is beginning again. The fire is being built back up, the millstone starting its night circuit, the dough being mixed in the large wooden troughs that will spend the night rising. He does not find this dispiriting, the beginning again after an ending. He has done it so many times that beginning and ending have become indistinguishable, the day and the night folded into each other like the dough under his hands, no seam between them, just the continuous motion that the city requires and that he provides. The three men who argued at Vitusha's table this afternoon are at a tavern now, farther into the Sabira, where the lamps are hung close together under the low overhang and the wine is rough and served in substantial measures, and the conversation has moved past whatever they were debating this afternoon into something easier and more comfortable. The talk of people who have been friends long enough that they no longer need to impress each other with what they know, who can say almost anything, and have it received in the spirit in which it was meant. One of them says something that makes the others laugh. The laughter goes up into the lamplight and disperses. On the roof of the insula on the Vicus Tuscus, the child who watched the dawn this morning is watching the evening now, deliberately this time, fully awake, sitting cross-legged on the warm terracotta with her chin resting on her folded hands. She is watching the lamps come on across the city, counting them in no particular order, losing count, starting again. The sky above her is doing what the sky does at this hour, committing, gradually and without drama, to the dark. She is not thinking about tomorrow, or about the day that is ending, or about any of the things that the adults in the rooms below are thinking about with their adult gravity and their adult weight. She is simply watching the lamps. One by one they appear across the rooftops and the hills and the valleys between them, small and warm and steady, the city lighting itself from within. 10,000 tiny arguments against the dark, none of them dramatic, each of them sufficient, all of them together composing something that has no single name and that she will remember, in the way children remember things that have no name yet, as the feeling of being somewhere very large and very old and somehow, despite all of that, entirely at home. Rome breathes below her, slow and amber. The stars take their positions above. The night begins its long and faithful watch. The lamp on the shelf is burning lower now. You can see it in the quality of the light, not dimmer exactly, not yet, but softer at the edges, the circle of warmth it casts on the wall having drawn itself inward by degrees over the last hour the way a tide draws back from a shore, slowly, without announcement, simply following the logic of what it was always going to do. The oil in the reservoir is nearly gone. Another half hour, perhaps a little more, and the flame will begin to gutter and search and find nothing left to consume, and then it will go out, and the room will be given back to the dark. This is how Roman nights end. Not with the decisive click of a switch, not with the sudden and complete extinguishing of light that the modern world has made ordinary, but with this gradual withdrawal, this slow negotiation between the lamp and the darkness, the light contracting toward its source until there is only the flame itself, small and specific and entirely present, and then not even that. For now, the flame is still. Faustina has put down her spindle. The thread she was drawing out tonight lies coiled in the basket beside her, more of it than she intended when she sat down, the hands having continued past the point where the mind was fully supervising. She unwinds the thread from the spindle and winds it properly onto the small wooden rod that keeps it ordered, a task her fingers complete in the dark by habit, not needing the lamp for this particular motion, not needing to see. Her hands know this shape. Her hands have always known this shape. She looks across the room at Marcus, who has been sitting with his back against the wall for the last hour, not sleeping but resting in the way that the very tired sometimes rest, present but suspended, the body having made its decision before the mind fully ratified it, the eyes open but not particularly engaged, watching the small drama of the lamp with the patient inattention of someone who is already most of the way to somewhere else. She says his name, quietly. Not as a question, not as a summons, simply as a sound, the sound of his name in her voice, which is a different thing from his name anywhere else. He looks at her. She tips her head toward the bed. He nods. They move through the room without lighting a second lamp. They know this room in the dark the way they know it in the light, the particular distance between the table and the shelf, the precise location of the step up to the sleeping platform, the exact geography of each other's familiar presence in a familiar space. The daughter has not moved. She is somewhere deep in the country of children's sleep, her breathing slow and completely trusting, one hand open beside her face. Marcus sits on the edge of the bed and removes his sandals. He does this carefully, without rushing, loosening the straps in the same order he has followed every evening for years, the leather warm from the day, the knots his father taught him. He sets them beside the bed. He lies back. The ceiling above him is dark. In daylight it shows the cracks that the building's settling has opened in the plaster, a map of small stresses, each one the record of a shift so minor it was unfelt, the accumulated evidence of a structure adapting to its own weight over years and decades. At night the cracks are invisible. The ceiling is simply dark. He looks at it the way you look at something when you are not really looking, when the eyes are open only because the body has not yet fully committed to closing them. Faustina settles beside him. The rope lattice of the bed takes her weight with the familiar complaint of old cordage, the particular sound of this bed, which is different from the sound of any other bed, which is the sound of home. She pulls the wool blanket up. It is not cold, not yet, the evening still holding the warmth of the day in the walls around them, but the blanket is a habit, a comfort, a boundary drawn between the room and the sleeping, and she draws it without thinking. Her hand finds his in the dark. Neither of them speaks. Outside the window, Rome continues. This is the thing about a city of 1 million people. It does not sleep all at once. It cannot. It does not have the structure for it. While Marcus and Faustina lie still in their darkening room, 1,000 other things are in motion in the streets below. The night carts have been moving since dusk, their wheels on the cobblestones a sound that the residents of the upper floors hear without waking, have incorporated into the texture of their sleep the way they have incorporated everything else about this city, the fountain, the millstone, the roosters that will begin before dawn, the dogs that answer the roosters, the whole patient orchestration of a city conducting itself through the hours of the dark. The bakers are at work. Terentius has his loaves in the oven already, the first batch of the night, the smell of them moving through the streets where almost no one is awake to receive it. The bread does not care whether it is received. It rises because that is what bread does when the conditions are right, because the yeast is doing what yeast has always done in the warm dark, patient and invisible and entirely without self-consciousness. The night watchmen, the vigiles, are on their rounds. They move through the streets in pairs, carrying torches that make their own small moving circles of light in the dark, checking the doors of the shops that closed at sunset, noting the buildings where lamps have been left burning too close to wooden walls, occasionally helping someone find a street they have lost in the dark. They are not dramatic figures. They are tired men doing a necessary thing, their sandals on cobblestone a sound that carries through the quiet streets farther than it would in the day, each pair of footsteps distinct and then gone, swallowed by the city's nighttime quiet. The Tiber moves in the dark as it always moves, without considering the hour, without any awareness of the city on its banks or the city's million sleeping occupants or the fact that it has been flowing through this landscape for longer than anyone alive can usefully conceive. The water that passes Rome tonight has come from the Apennine Mountains to the east, has collected in it the rain of the last weeks and the snowmelt of the spring, carries in suspension the fine silt that will eventually, over centuries, raise the level of the Roman plain and bury many of the things we now dig up and call ancient. The river does not know any of this. It moves because that is what rivers do, forward and forward, in the dark, without stopping. The fountain at the end of the Vicus Tuscus runs as it has run all day, as it ran all night last night, as it will run tomorrow night and the night after that. The sound of it has been part of this street for 60 years. There are people on this street who were born with that sound present and who have never known a night without it, for whom the sound of running water in the dark is so fundamental to the nature of nighttime that silence would be a stranger thing than sound. The water falls from the mouth of the stone figure that decorates the basin's edge, a river god, roughly carved, his expression ambiguous in the way of all stone that has been rained on long enough, and it falls in the same arc it has always fallen, into the same basin, and the sound it makes is the sound of water falling into water, which is the oldest sound the city has. Listen to it for a moment. There is no need to understand it or to do anything with it. It is simply there, the way Rome is simply there, enormous and specific and entirely indifferent to whether it is being observed, continuing its ancient business in the dark with the patient self-sufficiency of something that has been doing this for a very long time and expects to be doing it for a very long time more. The lamp on the shelf gutters. The flame leans sideways, recovers, leans again. It is searching for the last of the oil, drawing up what the wick can reach, which is less with each passing moment. The light in the room contracts further, pulling back from the walls, the corners going first, then the middle distance, until there is only the lamp itself, a small knot of amber in the dark, warm and specific and almost gone. Faustina's breathing has changed. It is slower now, deeper, the particular rhythm of sleep, the body having made its quiet crossing from wakefulness to somewhere else while the mind was still in the process of deciding. Her hand in Marcus's hand has relaxed, the grip loosened to the loose and trusting hold of a sleeping hand, the fingers curved slightly open as though offering rather than holding. He stays awake a little longer. Not for any particular reason, not from anxiety or from any pressing thought that requires resolution. Simply because the night has this quality sometimes, of not quite releasing you, of holding you gently in its mouth a little while longer before it lets you go. He listens to the city outside the window. The distant cart. The fountain. The small and indefinite sounds of a building settling, 10,000 people within hearing distance and most of them asleep, the insula itself breathing in its slow structural way, the timbers adjusting, the plaster holding what it holds. He thinks of nothing in particular. Or everything in passing, the dock, the water, the light on the Tiber this morning, the weight of the grain sacks, the foreman's hand on his shoulder in the late afternoon that meant the day's work was finished. The small economy of a life going forward. Faustina's voice saying his name in the dark. The sound of his daughter breathing at his feet. He is not unhappy. This is not a small thing in any life, in any century, to be lying in the dark with the people you love, the day finished, the night present and warm and full of the sound of water, and to be not unhappy. Rome outside the window is vast and demanding and full of difficulty. It will be vast and demanding and full of difficulty again tomorrow. But tomorrow is tomorrow, and the night is now, and the body is warm, and the lamp on the shelf is almost out. The flame leans one last time and goes. The room is dark. The real dark, the complete dark, the dark that is not the absence of light but simply its own thing, present, textured, the same dark that settles over every room in every building on all 7 hills tonight, the same dark that has settled here every night for centuries, the same dark under which the Romans have always laid down their work and their worry and let the city carry on without them for a few hours. Somewhere below, the fountain. Somewhere below, the cart on cobblestone, moving toward wherever it is going, the mule's slow hooves on stone, the driver half asleep on his bench, the city parting and closing around the movement. Somewhere below, a dog settling into a doorway. The last lamp in the thermopolium going dark. A child shifting in sleep, pulling a blanket closer, making a small sound that means nothing and settles back into silence. Somewhere below, Rome breathing. You have been here all day. You came in the last hour of the dark and you walked the streets and you stood at the bakery counter and felt the warm air from the ovens and listened to the millstone and watched the light on the Tiber and ate bread that someone else made and sat in the steam of the baths until the afternoon was soft, and then you watched the lamps come on across the city, one by one, hill by hill, until the whole ancient, improbable, magnificent, ordinary city was lit against the dark like something that did not know how beautiful it was because it was too busy being exactly what it was. You have seen the hands that built it. The baker's hands, the metal worker's hands, the weaver's hands, the scribe's hands. The children's hands throwing knucklebones in the last afternoon light. The old man's hands floating open in the hot water of the caldarium, holding nothing, needing nothing. You have heard the city. The fountain and the millstone and the vendor's voice and the cart on stone and the baby crying in the dark and the laughter rising from a table at a thermopolium and 3 men disagreeing about something that mattered to them, in a tavern that is now dark and empty and locked. All of it is still here. It is still happening, somewhere, not in time as we move through it, but in the other time, the time that does not pass but accumulates, in which every morning that was ever morning is still morning, in which the lamp that went out 1,000 years ago is still going out, the flame still leaning, the darkness still arriving. The room still warm with the warmth of 2 people and a sleeping child, and the city outside going about its ancient, patient, necessary business. Let it go now. The stones are warm. The fountain runs. The dark is soft and even and complete. Somewhere in Rome, a baker is shaping bread he will not see eaten. Somewhere in Rome, a child is dreaming something she will not remember. Somewhere in Rome, the water falls into the basin and the sound of it moves through the quiet streets and up through the open window and into the room where you are lying, warm, in the dark, in the city, in the only moment there has ever been. The city breathes. You breathe. The night holds you both.